Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 932B, and today's date is March 30th, 2016, and the title of the episode is Italy Threatens Airstrikes as the UN Unity Government Sneaks into Libya. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I just uploaded an interview with James Rickards. You can go to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you right over to the video. Or you can come over to the X22report.com site. Just scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. That is the website where I'm streaming alternative news into one location. We're seeing videos. We're seeing news. All you need to do there is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video, and you can watch it right there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the Obama administration, they are creating new rules, and they're developing these rules where the National Security Agency will be able to take data collected for counterterrorism and share it with local law enforcement. And of course, civil liberties advocates are expressing concerns, and everyone should be expressing concerns. We discussed this in the past where the federal government and the local authorities are melding into one. And we're starting to see the completion of the police state. Now, the new rule change, it does sound disturbing, and it should alarm everyone. The U.S. government, we should know, has had this ability for some time now. Because we know that Department of Homeland Security used fusion centers. We know the NSA has been spying on people, the FBI, and this has all been done before. But what we're seeing with this is the use of a revealed technique known as parallel construction, which former NSA Technical Director William Binney called the most threatening situation to our constitutional republic since the Civil War. What the federal government shares is all different information, and they get this without a warrant, and directs local law enforcement to make the arrest. Using parallel construction, police investigators, they're able to build their case using traditional policing methods, and what they do is they hide the fact that they gathered the data through illegal means, thanks to the federal government and the parallel construction. So when we look at this, we see the war on terrorism is truly a war on the people. And we can see this closes the loop for a complete police state. Full control of what is going on in the U.S. down to the town level. And this should scare everybody, because this is not what our founding fathers envisioned. Actually, the federal government should not have this type of reach. But this was created on purpose in this way, because they wanted to control from the top down. Because they know when things get out of hand, they're going to need the local law enforcement to help out, to control the situations, and to take orders on what they want done. And we know once the system starts to break down, people are not going to be happy. People are going to be afraid. People are going to be scared, and they're going to riot. Those people who say, okay, the government put us in this position, they're going to form groups. I mean, if we go back to the revolution here in the U.S., the same thing happened, where groups met. They talked about overthrowing the government, which was the British government at the time. And the same thing is happening today. And there were spies everywhere. They were using ciphers back then. Today we use encryption and other methods. And the same thing's happening. And you can see the big picture now of why the government wants to spy and be able to hear and read every piece of communication. Because they need to correlate the data to figure out who is going to be a threat to their power. So we're seeing a lot of parallels today of what is happening. And the government realizes this, and they're worried about people with weapons. That's their biggest worry. Now, out in Japan, we know, and we talked about this quite often, where Japan is no longer a pacifist nation. They will engage in conflicts abroad other than self-defense. And we see there's about 37,000 people plus who protested, saying that this shouldn't be. We do not want to make war. We shouldn't have war. And remember, the legislation was approved in December and went into force on Tuesday. So Japan is battle ready to join in with the U.S., with England, and everyone else to fight the enemies: Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Syria. So we can see more of the pieces of this great puzzle are coming together. Now, out in Ukraine, we see things are starting to heat up right now. Kiev is blaming all of their economic problems on Russian aggression. Now, Ukraine, their inflation is about 80%. And they're blaming this on Russia. Well, this has nothing to do with the coup d'etat from the U.S., where they came in with George Soros, Victoria Nuland, overthrew the elected government, put in a puppet government, and stole their gold, wreaked havoc on their economic system, started a civil war, and put them into a huge amount of debt. Let me see, who's to blame here? Yeah, it's really the U.S. But of course, they're using this as propaganda to get the war started. And we can see at this point, this is what they're trying to do, because we see UK's Hammond, which is the British Foreign Secretary, Philip Hammond. He's out there saying that Russia is not complying with the ceasefire agreement. You mean the ceasefire agreement that Russia came up with? The one that they pushed forward to stop the fighting in Ukraine? Now, at that point, the southeastern people, they were winning. They were pushing the Ukrainian troops back, and Kiev was surrendering left and right. They could have gone all the way to the capital and taken over the country. But they didn't. That's not what they wanted. They just wanted to be left alone and to be separate and apart from Ukraine. And we can see right now, they're trying to gin all of this up. They want a war. They want to provoke. We see the U.S. right now, they're going to be deploying an armored brigade combat team to Eastern Europe next February. And we know that they're continually bringing in more troops, more military assets. Why? Because of Russian aggression. And in each armored brigade, there's about 4,500 soldiers, along with, heavy vehicles, tanks, and other equipment. And we see that they're bringing all of these things into place. So they're ready for when the war breaks out. And they've been doing this for quite a while now. Now, it looks like a renowned French security expert, Paul Baril, he came out with very interesting information about Operation Beluga. And this really exists, and it is the Western intelligence scheme intended to undermine Russia and its leaders, to demonize and try to destabilize the Russian Federation. So everything that you're seeing, where they're continually bashing Putin, bashing Russia, provoking Russia, it's all part of this operation. Now, out in Libya, we're seeing things really start to heat up here, and it doesn't look good. We see that the airports were closed. The elected government in Tripoli was trying to keep the UN unity government out of Tripoli. But the UN-backed Presidential Council, the unity government, came in by ship on Wednesday. 7 members of the council came in, and they were going to head towards the capital of Tripoli. Now, the actual government in Tripoli demanded the unity government to leave the capital at once. They found out that they arrived, and they said they need to leave at this point. Now, while all of this is going on, we continually hear Italy, Egypt, France, the US, UK saying that force is not an option with Libya. It has to be diplomatic. Force is not an option. There will be no ground troops. And every time government, once again, continually pound this over and over, it's going to be the opposite. Because we are hearing from the Italian Foreign Minister, Paolo Gentiloni, and he has said that failure to install the national unity government in Libya might push the international community to bomb Libya. Now, of course, they're saying they're going to bomb the Islamic State, but we know what they're really going to bomb. They're going to bomb all of those people that oppose the unity government. And they're going to bomb those people who are in government. And we can see at this point that they will use force in this country, no matter which way it turns out. Once the unity government is put into power, let's say that option occurs, they will say, well, the unity government allowed us to come in. They allowed the ground troops to come in. They're allowing us to bomb certain areas, and they'll use that as their excuse. If the unity government is not put into power, they will let us know that the Islamic State is running amok in Libya. It's getting out of hand. We need to go in there. Now, of course, these are all cover stories. The real agenda is to get rid of those people who oppose the new government. Because as we know, the US, the central bankers, UK, the coalition forces, they need control of these countries because they need to keep the dollar on their natural resources. And a report said that Italy remained opposed of deploying ground troops, but may cave into pressure from the U.S. and other small special units and fighter jets for possible operations in Libya. And we can see at this point, we know what's going to happen. They're going to go in there, and they're going to start bombing Libya once again, no matter which way this goes. Now, Russia has deployed the Iskander tactical ballistic missile, and it's deployed in Syria right now at the air base. And we can see at this point that Russia is setting military assets up to protect the entire area. Because I think they realize what's going to happen here. They realize eventually the U.S. is going to come in somehow, some way, and do something. We're already starting to see bits and pieces of this plan come together. We talked about it yesterday, about Lebanon, about how many of the people are being evacuated in southern Turkey. We talked about a tactical nuke. We talked about Israel testing a dirty bomb. And there's a lot of talk about the Islamic State, which is the proxy army of the United States government central bankers, getting their hands on nuclear material. And when you start putting all these pieces together, it starts to form a picture. Now, Assad is saying to the UN that they will need help to restore Palmyra. And he is addressing Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to restore the ancient city, which was destroyed by the US, the UK, Israel, and other countries, because they're the ones who are controlling the Islamic State. And Assad is out there saying all this terrorism is coming from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, other coalition countries like United Kingdom, United States, France, and they're the ones who are pushing these terrorists in Syria. And the Syrian losses due to war has surpassed $200 billion. Syria's infrastructure have suffered damages amounting to over $200 billion. And we know the U.S. and the coalition forces were destroying the infrastructure in Syria, making the people suffer. And they're doing it in Yemen. They're doing it pretty much everywhere. Ukraine. Now, the Pentagon is not planning whatsoever to help Russia and Syria liberate Raqqa. They didn't help with Palmyra, and they're saying we have no plans for this. Actually, we don't even want to fight against the Islamic State. Well, that's kind of strange. Aren't they the terrorists? And we see the U.S. government is on the same exact path, using the same exact argument they've always done. Assad must go. But Assad is saying the transitional government in his country should include his government and the opposition government if we're really going to truly have some type of combined government here. But the U.S. has a problem with this because they don't want Assad a part of the transitional body. And I don't like this word transitional because it sounds like we're passing power off from whatever we have in Syria over to the U.S. And the U.S. keeps using the term transitional. What they're doing is they're meeting at a midpoint. And Assad says, well, I'm not stepping down. They will have seats in the government so they can be heard. And the U.S. is saying, well, this is a non-starter for us. Assad must be gone. He will not be included in this government that is being created. And Russia's saying, well, absolutely not. We reject this. Assad's departure is not part of the preconditions or conditions of these talks. So stop saying it. But we know the U.S. is not going to stop saying it because they want Assad gone. Now, Erdogan is in New York, and he said he's going to visit Obama. And Obama says, oh, absolutely not. I got to keep space between myself and Erdogan. So I'll have Biden meet with the Turkish leader, and maybe I'll meet Erdogan in a dark alley someplace where nobody can see us. Now, we can see what's happening right now. And we see the White House does not want to make President Erdogan look welcome in the U.S. They don't want him meeting with the president because Erdogan is their poster child for dictatorship, for the crazy maniac. He's going to be used most likely to start this war. And we're starting to see that they're putting together this entire plan where they're going to use him. Because they need some way, somehow, to start this up. And we can see already that Germany, they put up this video mocking Erdogan. And Erdogan is demanding that the YouTube account take it down. And Germany saying absolutely not. The German ambassador made it clear to the Turkish side that Germany is home of freedom of speech, which it will protect. So we can see already at this point, they're making Erdogan the poster child. They're going to use him most likely to start this great war. And this is their next plan. Now here in the United States, we see Jay Johnson is out there, and he is saying there is no specific threat. We're not detecting anything. Well, they never detect anything. Actually, if you look at their emergency warning on their website, they've never detected a single thing that happened here in the United States. Actually, they haven't even stopped terrorism at all. Well, we all know it's an inside job, and they're never going to stop anything. But they're saying there's no specific threat, but they're very worried about terrorist-inspired acts like we saw in Belgium. He says, we are concerned about terrorist-inspired acts that could be carried out here in the homeland. And we are continually concerned about foreign terrorist travel. And we're worried about terrorists already here in the U.S. They already have cells. They're lone wolves, not reporting to anyone. And they're very difficult to track. Of course they are. Because when they don't exist and it's an inside job and you have operatives standing by to push the next false flag, of course you need to say this. Of course there's going to be no warning. Because we have to understand at this point, the economy is completely collapsing in front of our eyes. It's getting worse and worse as every day that passes. We've been proving this every single day by looking at all these indicators. A lot of these indicators are what we saw back in 2008. Some are even worse than 2008. And as the economy continually crashes and they lose control in the Middle East, what are they going to do? They're going to use a false flag. They have to. They'll have no alternative. Well, they could let the economy just crash and take all the blame for it. Does anyone see that happening? I don't. When have you ever seen the government admit to anything, or the central bank admit to anything that they caused it? They're not going to. They're going to divert everyone's attention to a different location. They're going to put fear into every single person. They're going to scare them because they need you to do what they want you to do. And that is to go to war, to accept that they need to confiscate all your funds in the bank, to convince you that another country, group, or entity brought down the economic system we're in today. They need you to believe all of this. And that is the point of the false flag. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.